Will Donald Trump Jr., who is a prominent figure in the new Republican Party, the America First Party, dropped some hints today at an economic forum talking about potentially running for president in the future? And to be honest with you, Republican primary voters are very receptive to that idea. But let's just take a listen right now.
After President Trump steps down, would you consider picking up the reins? Would you run for office?
Here we go. Well, oh boy. Well, it's an honor to be asked and an honor to see that some people are okay with it.
Those are just our friends.
Yeah,
in the front
that's
row,
probably just a couple people we know. Those are the
three
tickets
people
we got.
Yeah, that's it. Right.
You never know. Right now, this has been my focus. I think it's not just about government. It's also about, the business sector doing that. I think when we saw, again, the woke ideology that has taken over corporate America for the last, decade or so, being on the forefront of combating that insanity, I think is fundamentally important. I think those two things have to go hand in hand. So the answer is, I don't know, maybe one day, that calling is there. I'll always be very active in terms of being a vocal proponent of these things. I think my father has truly changed, the Republican Party. I think it's the America First Party now, the MAGA Party, however you want to look at it.
So you can take that kind of both ways. You can take it as, maybe that's something he'd toy with, but also something where it's kind of like this is something on the back burner, not really paying attention. Obviously, Donald Trump Jr. has a huge, huge following on social media, on X, on Rumble, has a daily show that is very, very popular with rank and file Republicans. And you have to say the new Republicans, it's kind of hard to differentiate between, I shouldn't say hard, but when you speak about it, to differentiate between Republicans and kind of the more America First, MAGA wing of the party. But it's very true. It is 100% true that Republican primary voters are very receptive to the idea. You can see right here that in aggregate, Donald Trump Jr. is polling somewhere around 20%. And this is considering the fact that he is not even in most of these polls here. There was a poll taken back in March that showed 31%, almost neck and neck with J.D. Vance in a Republican primary. It's like ultimately we know that, and look right here. Look at this, without Trump Jr., and this is kind of interesting, 39% would vote for Trump if he ran. Obviously, we know constitutionally Donald Trump cannot run for another term in 2028. There would have to be a constitutional amendment, which there is zero chance of that happening. Andy Ogles can introduce as many constitutional amendments as he wants. It isn't going to change the rules at the end of the day because you would need many Democrats to sign on. And, and I'm sure if the rules were changed so Obama could run it, the Democrats might do that, and we could get a Trump-Obama showdown in 2028. Ultimately, very unlikely that's going to happen. But you can see, even though Donald Trump Jr. is not in some of these polls where they just exclude him from some of these polls just to see where is it really at, he's still polling somewhere around 20%. 1 in 5 Republican primary voters would vote for Donald Trump Jr. But I think it's very unlikely at this point that he would run in 2028. Maybe do you see donors starting to have conversations about this in a year from now, somewhere around the midterms, quickly after the midterms, when really all the focus starts to shift to the 2028 presidential election. Ultimately, I really just have a hard time seeing that happen. I think it would be interesting to see, Trump Jr. and maybe against Buttigieg or Kamala Harris or AOC. Now we know the Democrats will never give AOC that. They'll never give her the nomination. Like, they will do what they did to Bernie Sanders and make sure he never, ever gets that nomination. And Trump Jr. has said multiple times before that he really has no intentions of running for president. He used some colorful words I won't say on here. But ultimately, you still have to consider the idea that his name's going to be out there. He's going to stay involved in political activities moving forward. He will be probably a big voice in the Republican Party after Donald Trump leaves office. But like I said, I see it very far off as of right now that he would run in 2020 or even 2032. But at the end of the day, it still is a very interesting idea to toy with. If he were to run, and when he would be, it would be the third combination of a father-son duo as far as being president. Obviously, you had George Herbert Walker Bush, who was president, and then you had George H. Bush, George Jr., Bush Jr., and then I believe it was it John Adams and John Quincy Adams was like the second and the sixth president of the United States. So that would be interesting. But there's also a lot of people who have said that if there was a Trump that was going to run, another Trump that was going to run, get into politics, that it would be Barron Trump. There's been a lot of people with inside of the family, people who are close to the family, with inside of that sort of inner circle, that say, look at Barron Trump. He is definitely seen as the, quote, golden child within the Trump family as of right now. And I think that's something very interesting to take a look at. You know, we saw Ivanka Trump and her husband Jared Kushner really take a step back from politics after the 2016 or Donald Trump's first term in the presidency. Really took a step back, much more of an informal role, really no role, I should say, to begin with. But then you have, Donald Trump Jr., and then you have Barron Trump in there, who really are the only two, but definitely a cute idea, I guess you could say, to toy with. But after this story broke, it really kind of gained a lot of attention. Yeah, most big... Sorry about that, something just started playing. But ultimately, after that, Donald Trump Jr. did come out and put this out there. So... we'll just read this right here. So Reuters claims that Don Jr. said the following regarding running for office. I don't know. Maybe one day. You know, the call-in is there. But watch the video and it's clear they misquoted him really by attaching maybe one day to the first sentence, which changes the entire context of the statement. Trump Jr. put out a statement saying fake news Reuters should retract this BS. They put a comma where there should... They put a comma where there should have been a period to change the context of what I said. I've always said, while I'll never 100% rule it out down the line, I have zero interest in running for office in 2028 or anytime soon. I think that's a pretty clear cut idea. Obviously, you know, politicians say this all the time. He's not really a politician, but, you know, people say this all the time. People say, oh, we're not running. And then, you know, 5 minutes later, they turn around and say they are running. Oh, no. Biden didn't have any mental decline. He's doing handstands and cartwheels behind closed door. And now we know that he has stage 4 metastatic prostate cancer. It has spread to his bones. It's kind of insane. So, you know, I'm not trying to lean in and say that Trump Jr. is lying right here, but ultimately, that's just not the media he's obviously trying to get right now. And he's got a successful show. He's the vice president of the Trump organization right now. Why would you want to leave that? Like, you're a business guy. You live in the private sector. You don't have any the checks and balances you have are your shareholders and the law. That's about it. You know, you go into government, you have all these checks and balances of what you can, what you can't do, how you can be financially vested in something and how you can't be. Like, it really just doesn't make any sense why a business person, unless you want the power. But if you're just after money and after kind of, you know, the social media presence, the fame, he's got it all right now. Really no need to jump over into the political world. The Trump organization, I'm sure, will be doing just fine, and he will have no issues with that. But that is going to wrap things up for today, folks. As always, drop down below, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you never miss another video from us again in the future. And folks, we will catch you next time.